Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you my Teamndl / Sunavalon deck profile. Now, this particular list also fits for Master Duel. Of course, you can change card depending on what you want to. And before you ask, no, I don't run Therions, p.u.n.k, or Adventures in this list because those cards are a little bit too expensive and I'm trying to make this as budget friendly as possible, although there's still a very expensive card in this entire list. But before we jump right into the video itself, I'm going to remind you that if you want to see more videos like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It helps a ton, motivate me to create more videos. Let me know in the comments down below what will you change for your list. Give a like to the video if you enjoyed, and without further ado, let's jump right into the list itself. Alright, one last thing I would say once again before we jump right into the list if you decide to skip the intro, and that is this version is not running the Therion, Adventure, or p.u.n.k cards because they're specifically a little bit too expensive for me at the moment, and just in general, I really like the as pure as possible, I guess, Teamndl play style that this deck has. Not to mention the fact that, like I said, it's expensive. There is still one card that is expensive in this particular list still, but overall, this list, in my opinion, is just pretty cheap and just very accessible. And we're going to start things off with the play of 3 copies of Genius Loci. Sunseed Genius Loci is basically the heart and soul of the deck and what allows this deck to actually function. Technically, the cards around it are the cards that just make this card really, really good, but I haven't really seen up to this day, which I really applaud Konami for this one, an actual normal monster that doesn't feel like a little bit of a hindrance, because when it comes to Blue Eyes and Dark Magician, no offense for those cards because I love them as well and like to run those cards in different, in my own particular lists, but those cards are high level monsters and they're a little bit more harder to actually use than a Genius Loci, which just is a level 1 and have a lot more synergy because it still have the normal monster support, but it also have the lower normal monster support, and like I said, it's a level 1 that you can always just normal summon, and this card by itself is 1-card combo, so that's why Genius Loci is so good. As for the other Sunseed monsters that I run only 2 copies of Sunseed Twin. I don't run Shadow anymore because I just needed space for other things, although you could make the argument that you just still need to run the Shadow. I just felt it's not really that necessary. The reason why I still run 2 copies of Twin is because this version is not the Therion whatever adventure token version, which you just need 2 of this because unlike that deck, if you just don't have the ability to activate your sewing, unlike the best card, it's far worse. Although, worst case scenario, you just summon another Sunseed Genius Loci directly from your deck, but we do want best case scenario, so that's why I'm running 2 copies of this card. In case that you are draw 1, at the very least, the second, you still have the ability to activate your sewing and do your normal combo, rather than just compromising in a really, really bad way. But this card is just when it's normal or special summon, allowing you to summon a Genius Loci, technically a normal plant monster level 4 or lower, but it's going to be Genius Loci directly from your graveyard. And yeah, this is the card that you want to special summon from your deck with your kind of emergency teleport for the archetype. And then for the rest of the plant support, we run 3 copies of Lawnfire Blossom. This particular list, love this card because the main focus, again, is this card, although you can summon any other plant monster as well. This card just is free additional special summons for your Genius Loci. Unfortunately, it does require a normal summon, but we do have other cards that allow you to special summon Genius Loci from deck, worst case scenario, so you shouldn't be so afraid to use this card. And then for the rest of the plant monsters, I run as one-offs. For the big ones, I run 1 Mardell, 1 Snowdrop, and 1 Mudan the Rika Fairy. Some particular lists don't really like to run this and what are called the Ricochet and also the Spore and Carrot Weight as 1 engine. I just decided to run all of them specifically because I felt like those particular cards as an overall together just giving you more options. But again, you can just decide to cut whatever you want to. Regardless, these 3 monsters are your big monsters that you want to use. Mudan and Snowdrop, when you want to special summon them, you just tribute a plant monster and you special summon them out of your hand. In the case of Snowdrop, she can special summon another plant monster from your hand with her, so she's really, really good. She's just 2 cards for 1, and most of the time you just search those 2, and then this summon this together with itself, which is pretty good. And then the other effect is that you can target a plant monster on the field, including itself, and then all monsters on the field becomes that level until the end of the turn. which is just very good for your Xyz play and for your Teardrop, I believe the name of that one, which is the expensive card. Unfortunately, I'm hoping it get a reprint pretty soon, but it does allow you to go into your Teardrop or your Tree Deer, which is the rank 9. If you, of course, have Mordell. In the case of Mudan, when she's normal special summon, she's allowing you to by the effect of plant monster, she's allowing you to search a Rika, spell, or trap from your deck to your hand. Which, this is going to become a lot better once we're going to get into Power of the Elements, because this deck is going to get a little bit more of a Rika support, which I'm going to play, because those two particular cards that we're going to get in Power of the Elements are just going to make this a little bit better. But for now, we're only running these two as where it comes to our Rika monsters, and it's worked quite fine. And for Mordell specifically, you summon it directly from your deck with a Jasmine or Lawnfire Blossom, and just search any plant monster that you need. And then for the last plant monsters that we run one copy of Carrot Weight, one copy of Cactus Bouncer, one copy of Rose Princess, one copy of Rose Girl, Laurel, and Spore. These are the 6 last plant monsters I run. Spore is because it's in the graveyard, it's allowing you to special summon itself by banishing a plant monster and becoming that level +1. So you can just, for example, banish a Laurel, make this into a level 2 tuner, which with a Carrot Weight equal your Sweet Mandarin, or you can just in general, just even banish a level, I don't know, a level 8 from your graveyard, and let's say you have a Mordell on your side of the field, this becomes a level 9, and you can go into a rank 9 play. This is just a very, very flexible card. As for Laurel, for most of your combos, you're going to have more life points than your opponent, so this is just a free special summon, and it's also trigger if you have 2 Jasmines on the field, which is most of the time what you want to do for the combos. You basically going to get 500 life points, and then you go to trigger both of their effects for searching, so that is really, really good as a one-off. Rose Girl is a free special summon if a plant is sent to the graveyard. It's also have another effect in the graveyard to recover itself, but you're not going to be using the same one in the same turn, because unfortunately it's only one effect per turn, which is annoying, but it is what it is. Rose Princess is a free special summon if your opponent control a monster, or search for your White Rose Cloister, which is another free way to special summon a monster, your plant monsters. Although I will cut this probably in the future, like I said, when we're going to get the Rika stuff, because the Rika stuff is just going to make this deck a little bit better. Cactus Bouncer in your way to stop your opponent from special summoning for the game, and also you can run Rose Whip instead if you feel that's more necessary, but you know, it is what it is. What do you want to run for you? And Carrot Weight is just a way to just discard the one that you want to, and a free special summon from the graveyard. But that does it for the plant monsters, and then for the only hand trap that I run in the deck, I run 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I don't think I need to explain this one that much. This card is the best hand trap in the format, and you run this card at 3 because it's just really good. Although you could run any other hand traps, I just think that this one is the best one. But that does it for the monsters and overall. For the spells, we run 3 copies of Sunvine Sowing, which is your best card in the deck where it comes to be searched with your your Dryas, which is the Link 1, which this card is finally also accessible in Master Duel for all the Master Duel players. This card is basically an emergency teleport for your Sunseed monsters directly from your deck, which you have 5 targets. However, if you don't control a Sunavalon Link monster, you can only summon Genius Loki. You do take 1000 damage for this, but this card is just really, really good. And then this card also have the effect that you cannot special summon, of course, monster for the extra plant monster, and if a plant monster you control will be destroyed by battle by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, which is just a nice protection effect, just in general to give your plant monsters. And like I said, if you have a Link monster or a Sunavalon Link monster, you summon it directly from your deck the Twin, which then will summon the Genius Loki from your graveyard. If you don't, you just still summon the Genius Loki directly from your deck, which is still an emergency teleport if you need it to be. Then 2 copies of Sunvine Shrine, which is the other one. This is basically a Monster Reborn, although you can only activate this card by discarding 1 card from your hand, which is a little bit of a shame. But this, unlike Sunvine Sowing, this is not a hard once per turn effect. You can activate this card by sending a card from your hand to the graveyard, and you can activate multiple effects of this in a turn, but you only just need 2. And this one just revives for you your Genius Loki every single time, which is pretty cool. Also, it has another effect that during the end phase, you can send this from the face up from the face-up card to the graveyard, and then you get to target a continuous trap in your graveyard and set it to your spell and trap zone, which we actually have 2 targets for this, so that does sometimes come up, but mostly it's just a monster reborn for your Genius Loci, which is allowing you to continue plays. And then for the last few spells, we're on 3 Unexpected Die, which is another emergency teleport. 2 copies of Painful Decision, because this card allowing you to search the Genius Loci and Foolish Burial 1 directly from your deck. 2 Pot of Avarice to just recycle things back into the deck, because you are going to go through your extra deck quite a bit. 1 Coiled by the Grave for combo deck, and 1 White Rose Cloister, because White Rose Cloister is just another free special summon from hand if you just need it. Now, Pot of Avarice is a card that you can cut specifically if you want to, but this deck specifically run a lot of the time just through the entire extra deck, or just really quickly, and just shuffling everything back and just giving you the ability to, once again, with 1 Genius Loci to do the entire thing is just really good, so I decided to run this card too. However, you can just decide to not run it and run something else, but I think it's just pretty necessary. As for Painful Decision, you only need 2 of this, because you were just going to activate this once a game, because you are going to Foolish 1 Genius Loci and add 1 to your hand, and then it's just dead, so I just decided to only run 2 of it, but you can just decide to cut something else and run this at 3 if you feel it necessary. Also, you can cut something else and also add 1 for 1 if you think that one is necessary as well. But that does it for the spells. For the traps, we have 3 for the plant ones, which is Ricochet, Sunavalon Bloom, and Blessed Winds. These 3 particular traps are the traps that you're going to use and search with your different archetypes, or should say, like, plant engines that you have in the deck. This with, of course, the Rika. This one is your link for Sunavalon Link monster, and this one is search with your Switch Mandarim, which is your synchro monsters that you run in the extra deck. Now, in the case of Blessed Winds, the only 2 effects that you care about are the 2 last effects, which is target a plant monster in your graveyard, shuffle it, and then gain 500 life points. And because of that, this will trigger the Switch Mandarim effect to pop a card on the field. Not to mention the fact that it will just increase your way to basically protect your plant monsters, because if your life points are higher than your opponent, Switch Mandarim will protect your monsters from basically being targeted, so that's actually kind of cool. But the other effect that sometimes does come up, which is if you pay 1,000 life points, you revive an aroma monster in your graveyard to your side of the field, so you can revive back Sweet Mandarim if you have to, or your Jasmine if you want specifically, and then maybe just get another search in a later turn, so that's pretty good. In the case of Sunavalon Bloom, this card is basically a skill drain for your, plant monsters. If you control a link for plant monster, you're basically skill draining your opponent's entire field, which is really, really powerful. The other effect that this card has is that during damage calculation of plant monsters battle, you can activate the effect to gain life points equal to the combined attack of all monsters it currently points to. So it's really good with one specific monster, which we'll talk about it, and then this is just giving you the ability to just go over monsters pretty easily if you need to in a later turn. In the case of Ricochet, you can activate this card without tributing a plant monster and just become an infinite impermanence on a specific monster your opponent controls. Or, if you tribute a plant monster, you basically able to also just make this into a crackdown and just take control of that monster. And this is a searchable crackdown, which is really, really good. Also, another thing, this card is going to become even better once we get, once again, the Power of the Element support for Rikas, because the field spell will make it that you don't have, as a once per turn, you don't have to tribute your monsters to activate the Rika card's effects. You can tribute one monster for your opponent. So you basically be able to crack down and tribute another monster to your opponent if you are able to do that, so this card is just becoming a lot better. And then for the last card, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. This card is just the best hand trap currently. Outside of Ash. If you don't have the ability, you can run anything else, but I just want to run the best hand traps as possible. But that does it for the main deck. Now I'll move on into the extra deck, and for the extra deck, we're going to start with the Link monsters first. 1 copy of Healer, double copies of Thrasher, and then 3 copies of Dryas for your Link ones. There is a particular part in me that wanted to cut this 1-1 and run 2 Healer, but I think 2 Thrasher is just really, really good to help you OTK your opponent, because this card is just really, really powerful. Both of these cards are your Sunvine monsters that if you take damage, from battle by card effect. This can summon it directly from the extra deck, and then you gain life points, and then you summon one directly from your extra deck, which is really good. But just in general, these cards will be sent to the graveyard as if a Sunavalon, or should I say destroyed, if a Sunavalon monster leaves the field by a card effect. However, they're very good. In the case of Thrasher, he's gained 800 attack equal to the link rating of a Sunavalon link monster on your side of the field. So if you have the link 4 on your side of the field, this is a 4000 attack beat stick, which is very, very big, and works really well with the trap as well. The other effect that it also has is that if you destroy a monster by battle and send it to the graveyard, basically you can summon it to a link zone link monster points to, so you just get to snatch steal it. Although its effect not negated, it's still very powerful and just allowing you to just finish games with a greater of ease, because this card only require a Genius Loki to summon. It's basically a normal plant monster. You summon this and it's just so big and it just allow you to finish games, which is just so amazing. So this card, in my opinion, is a must-off to run at 2. Just because you can just summon easily 2 of them. Although, like I said, you couldn't run this one at 1 and run a second healer, because there are some particular combos that miss the second healer, but I think for the more basic ones, you only need 1. This one, when it link summon, you gain life points equal to the number of Sunavalon link monster on the field. So you gain life points 300 equal its link rating. So for example, if you control the link 1, you gain 300. If you control the link 4, you gain 1200, which is pretty nice. And then if this card, when your link monster inflict battle damage to your opponent, this card, you gain 600 life points, which is also just okay for long game, and it works really, really well with Aromage Jasmine, which is kind of like that. It's her entire thing, because you're having a higher life points than your opponent. That's allowing you to get the L'Oreal, and L'Oreal will just then special summon itself, link itself, and then you get an additional 500 life points, which will give you the 500 additional life points that you need to just get 2 searches. Although this is also just if it's on the field multiple times, it will give you the ability to search. But I don't think you need 2 copies of this. I think 1 is more than enough. Again, you can make the argument that this is better to running than 2 Thrashers, but I felt like just 2 Thrashers just allowing you to finish games, which is pretty good. And then for your only link 2, run 2 copies of Jasmine. Jasmine is absolutely ridiculous in this deck. Any card that just came from, I guess, Dual Overload, or should I say, from the OCG set of Link monsters with Haki Fibrex was absolutely ridiculous, because this card allowing you that if your life points are higher than your opponent, and the first effect doesn't matter. The second effect is that if you contribute a plant monster and special summon, or should I say any monster this card points to, and special summon 1 plant monster from your deck. So it's basically kind of like forced on your own opponent, own monster, another one, Lone Fire Blossom, which is really, really good. And then the other effect is, which is not the hard once per turn one, that if you once per turn, as a soft once per turn, if you gain life points, you're able to add a plant monster from your deck to your hand, which works really well, like I said, with Laurel, because you can gain 500 life points and then get 2 searches. As for our Link 3, the only one that we have 2 copies of Malice. Malice is really good because when it Link Summon, it's once again giving you back the Genius Loki from your graveyard to your side of the field. Again, not a hard once per turn, because that's almost how this deck entirely works. Almost all of the effects are not a hard once per turn, which is ridiculous. But this card, once per turn, you can target 1 Sunvine Link monster you control, and that discard points to this turn. It can attack number of time equal to the number of Sunavalon Link monster you currently control. So let's say you control 3 Sunavalon Link monsters, and you control a Sunvine Thrasher. You can target it, and you can attack 3 monsters for 4,000 attack each. If you, of course, control the Link 4. If you just control this, it will be 3,200, but it's still very, very big, so it's just very, very good with this card. And then for the last links that we'll run 1 copy of Sunavalon Dry, whatever this name is, the Link 4, and 1 the Resurgent. Resurgent is just a bounce for the most part, and then if it's in the graveyard, you can banish Link rating up to 4, and then special summon this card from your graveyard. But banish it when it leaves the field. The point is, this is a bounce that you receive damage for, but it's still very, very good. It's the main boss monster for the archetype, I guess. And then this one is your main searcher for your trap. It's also have the additional effect that this one allowing you to once per turn tribute the link monster discard points to and destroy any number of cards your opponent control up to the number of its link rating. So if you have Resurgent, you can destroy up to 4 cards on your opponent's side of the field, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But that does it for these cards, and then for the last few cards that we run 3 copies of extra deck monsters that are not link monsters. One Sweet Marjoram, which is the card that search your Blessed Winds. It's also when you gain life points, is allowing you to pop a card on your opponent's side of the field. And then it's also giving protection, like I said before, if your life points are higher than your opponent cannot target plant monsters you control with card effects. As for Teardrop, this card allowing you to tribute any monster on the field as a quick effect if it has a plant monster as a material, which it probably will, and it's also gained 200 attack for each monster tributed this turn until the end of the turn. So this has basically become a 3000 attack monster that tributed upon a monster your opponent controls, which is just really, really powerful. As for Hyperion, whatever his name is, the tree beast, this one is a rank 9 that you can summon using a Mardell and a Snowdrop, which will then just make itself a level 9 as well. And this one allowing you to basically, if you activate a spell, equip a spell from the graveyard to it, another one, and if you activate a trap, you can equip the other one. Basically, if you want to use this card to effect to negate, you have to detach the correct card material from it. So if your opponent activates a spell and you have a spell attached to it, you can just detach it during your opponent's turn to negate. If you have like your opponent activate a trap and you don't have a trap under it, you cannot negate it. But it's still a very, very good interruption. Although sometimes I actually just don't really like this card. I'm not really 100% sure I love it, but I do think it's just still good enough as a one-off. Because I decided to cut down the Pearl Exceed, it became a little bit worse, but it's not that terrible. But that does it for the deck list itself as an overall. I really, really like this deck, and I think it's really cool. Honestly, this is basically kind of almost the same list that you're going to run in Master Duel. Of course, you can make your own changes, but now let's move on into the combo section. Welcome to the combo section. In the combo section, I'm going to share with you 2 combos using this specific card only, and essentially, it's really depend on your matchup which one of these you want to go into. Sometimes you want to go into the Marjoram line, sometimes you want to go into the Teardrop line. It's really depend on what you're facing specifically. And these 2 combos are going to be just 1 card combo, 3 interruptions. However, the Marjoram line is going to use more extra deck monsters as an overall, although it's just going to have more card advantage, and if your opponent doesn't really have back removal, you'll be able to build your board pretty easily once again in a later turn. But let's get started. So to start things off, we're going to, of course, normal summon the Genius Loki for our first Teardrop combo. We're going to link it off, and we're going to go into our Link 1 Dryas effect. We'll search to our hand the Sowing, and we're going to activate Sowing immediately, summon our twin directly from our deck. We're now going to take 1000 points of damage, which will trigger the Dryas effect to special summon the Healer, and then we're going to use the Healer, or should I say the Twin effect, to special summon the Loki. Now we're going to use Healer effect to give ourselves 300 additional life points, and then we're going to link these 2 specifically off into our copy of Jasmine. Jasmine will then tribute the twin, and then we're going to special summon directly from our deck the copy of Mardell, and now we're going to use Mardell effect to search to our hand the copy of Laurel. Since we have more life points than our opponent, we get to free special summon this card, and then we're going to link summon these 2 off into our second copy of Jasmine. Jasmine's, both of their effects will trigger because Laurel gave us an additional 500 life points, and then we're going to search to our hand the 2 copies of our Rika Fairy monsters from our deck to our hand by using both of their effects, and then we're going to link these 2 off into our copy of Begalancer the Resurgent. Now we're going to use Rika Fairy Snowdrop effect to tribute the Genius Loki, and to special summon itself from the hand, and then we also special summon the Mudan from her effect. And now we're going to use Mudan effect to search the Rika sheet. Then we're going to use discard effect to make both of them level 8, and we're going to Xyz summon our Teardrop. Now, of course, you can also make them rank 9, and then go into your Tree Deer, but I think in Teardrop effect is a little bit better, because we're not going to have any spell to activate or something to just, or should I say, attach to it something from the graveyard with a different card type. So it's a little bit worse because we're just using this so-called combo with only 1 card. If we had an additional spell that we want to activate, then it might be better than a teardrop, but honestly, it really depends. But that's pretty much does it for the combo as an overall. We got ourselves our own in-archetype Crackdown / Infinite Impermanence. We got a tribute to our opponent monster, which is pretty good, and we got a bounce as well from 3 cards, or should I say from 1 card, 3 interruptions, and we only use 6 extra deck monsters. But that does it for this combo. Let's move on into the Mandarum line combo, which is the second option. Alright, so for our second combo, once again, we're going to use the Genius Loki, and this particular combo is basically the same until we reach the double Jasmines, because then we're just going to search 2 cards. So starting things off, we're going to link this off immediately after normal summoning it into our Dryas. Dryas will search again the Sowing. We activate Sowing, summon Twin, which will summon this back, and this will summon this back, of course, in particular order, but I'm trying to speed this as much as possible. We're going to be now 8,300 life points. We're going to link this off into our Jasmine, and then we're going to use Jasmine effect to tribute to one of our monsters this card's points to into our copy of Murdell, which will search Double Rel, and then we're going to special summon Double Rel because we have more life points, and link these 2 specifically into our second copy of Jasmine. Now in this particular point, like I said, is where things change. Because instead of adding the 2 Rika monsters, the one that we actually add is Carrot Weight and Spore instead of those 2 specific monsters. So, after adding these 2 specifically, we're actually going to take the Genius Loki and one of our Jasmines, this one specifically, not the one in the extra monster zone, and we're going to link it into our copy of Malice. Malice effect on Link summoning will summon back the copy of, Genius Loki. And then we're going to take another Jasmine and another Genius Loki once again to summon our second copy of Malice, which once again will summon our Genius Loki again, because this is not a hard once per turn effect. Like I said, in the deck profile, a lot of the Sunavalon / Sunseed / Sunvine cards are not a hard once per turn, so we can use them multiple times. Now we're going to link this card again, and we're going to summon our Dryas, which will then search to our hand the copy of Shrine. Now we're going to take these 2 because these 2 are Link monsters, and link them into our copy of the Link 4, which will then search to our hand the copy of the Trap. And then we're going to activate our copy of Sunvine Shrine. Now we're going to use Sunvine Shrine effect on activation, discard a Carrot Weight. And then we're going to use the Carrot Weight effect to discard the Spore and special summon itself. Next, we're going to use the Spore effect, banish specifically for our graveyard the Laurel to make itself a level 2, and special summon itself to our side of the field. Then we're going to use these 2 because they're together a level 4 or a level 6, and we're going to special summon out of our extra deck our Sweet Mandarum, which will then give us the copy of Blessed Winds. We're now going to use Sunvine Shrine effect, revive our Genius Loki, and then link these 2 specifically, once again, into our copy of Resurgent. Then we're going to, I'm going to summon it here, and then we're going to set our 2 traps and pass the turn to our opponent. So in this particular combo, what did we end with? Well, we ended up, instead of having the same thing as the previous turn, instead of having a tribute, we got a pop, and instead of having 1 infinite impermanence effect, we got a skill drain, which is also just a great follow-up. And the reason why this end board, while using more extra deck monsters, is a little bit better, is because of the fact that this card, if your opponent doesn't really have backward removal or way to remove your entire board, this will just summon this back directly to your side of the field in a later turn, which is really, really good. So you can revive this back, or your Jasmine, and just continue playing off. Also, Resurgent also special summons itself from the graveyard by banishing Link Force, which is a little bit more easier to do with this combo, and you less care about banishing your 2 Jasmines, because the 2 Jasmines do have some kind of applications if you open up with this. So like I said, this is a little bit better, and you also have the follow-up with this and this as well, because this one will be able to summon the Genius Loki every single turn, and this one is just giving you the ability to just, this becomes a 2,500 attack monster, actually 4,700 attack monster if you target it for this card effect, because it points to these 2 monsters, which are together 4,700, so that's also pretty cool. And Mandarum also protect your entire field from targeting. So yeah, there are some particular upsides for this board combo and sometimes for the other one. It just depends on what you want specifically from your cards. But that does it for the combos and overall, and does it for the deck profile. Now let's move on into the next deck choices. Alright, so for the next deck choices, I'm going to have the 3 options from, of course, the last video, which are going to be Frogs, and I forgot the other 2. I don't know, I always forget. Frogs, Dragunity, and the last one, which I think is Lyrilusk. I always forget about that. But the 4th and final option is an option that I want to do once again because people seem to enjoy it. And it's a pretty much fun favorite deck. It's a deck that I also enjoy as well. Even though I haven't played it till recently, is actually Dinos, because Dinos are actually really cool. So we're going to do once again Dino Scraps if you want me to make a list about that one as well. But yeah, that's pretty much does it for the video. So hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something new. Give a like to the video if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.